All right, welcome everyone. And this is the first of many, like I started with last video. If you watched our little intro spiel there, this is the ultimate guide to a perfect business plan. So, what is a business plan? Now, a business plan is a written description detailing multiple aspects of your business. So, this is really your organizational standpoint. This is where you stand at the time. It's a really important thing to do. It captures your dreams, concepts, and schemes, and it kind of puts it on paper, and it gives you a set of rules almost to follow as you're going forward. And like I said, it's kind of your strategic guideline. So this is obviously really important. Why spend time on a plan? Uh, Hopefully, this isn't really a question you're spending too much time on. However, we'll explain a little bit anyway in case you are. So, in a more advanced topic, if you're looking to secure funds from creditors, banks, investors, you're gonna need a really good thought out business plan because they're not just gonna hand you $50,000 if you say, you know, I'm gonna sell handmade bricks to my neighbors. It's just unfortunately it's not gonna work. So it forces you to review your plan all at once and really lays the groundwork. So it shows your value proposition, what you're providing to your market. And then, of course, marketing assumptions. So what your market is. Is there a market for this product or service? Who's going to buy this? And then operational and financial planning, which, as I mentioned in the intro video, is extremely important. So when should we write the plan? And that's a simple question. You should do that as soon as possible. Typically you're gonna probably start up your legal formation. You might want to form your business first, and maybe you don't. Maybe this is the first thing you can do. Even if it's not complex, you should really write down the idea because this helps you kind of vision it more. And I think it's really something to organize your thoughts and what's going on in your mind about the whole topic that you want to discover. So, template and sections of a plan. Now, basically, you can look at a business plan as sort of a template to follow. And this is really easy to look at it if you're creating one. And like I said, if you're just starting off, it doesn't have to be really complicated. It can just kind of be your general ideas, your intro per se for the business. So this is kind of a brief little lineup of what's going to be included in all of these sections here. And it's going to be your executive summary, business description, market strategies, competitive analysis, design and development, operations and management, and financial factors. So starting off, you're going to include your executive summary. Now I say starting off. However, typically you write the executive summary last because this is a summary of all of the pages in your business plan. I have a point here that says really nail what it is you're trying to accomplish here because sometimes you really don't get into that until a couple of pages deep. So if you're trying to present this to a creditor or an investor, you're going to want to have a really enticing, point in your executive summary to kind of capture their attention, before they get lost in the process. So this kind of needs to be short, 1 to 2 pages in length. Nothing long, again, to keep the attention with your reader. And that's pretty much sums up the executive summary. You're going to kind of, as you'll see going forward, you're just going to summarize your whole plan. So, company description. Now, this typically starts off as describing the industry you serve. So, retail, agriculture, medical supplies, office supplies, retail, e-commerce, whatever it may be, on how this industry market looks. A brief general description of what this market really has the potential to be, what you plan to make of it, what you're going to do in this market, how you're going to satisfy the needs of customers in this market. Next is your business structure. So there's a couple different forms you can turn into. So, there's the sole proprietor, partner, C Corp, S Corp, LLC. There's a multitude of different options you have. And we'll have videos explaining that going forward. Now, the biggest thing here is these really help with liabilities. So if you have a if you don't want to be liable for something happening, then it's usually best to maybe form an LLC, for example. There's different fees associated with this, as well as different rules for different parts of the country, different states. Next is your products offered. So just a real brief description of your products or the services that you plan on offering. Then how you will sell these products. Again, another brief description on how you plan to sell these, what your basic marketing strategy is going to be. And then most importantly, how will you be profitable? And this is the big thing. This is what everyone wants to know. Now it's important to use hard data here. I can't stress enough on a business plan, especially in the more advanced stages and when you're presenting to bank officers, loan officers, investors, whatever it may be. They really need supporting data to back up your claims. So you're going to need to spend a lot of time on this if you're trying to secure funds. Now, next section is market analysis. So again, this must be researched heavily and supported by data. Here you're going to define your market. So this is going to be essentially the industry. So t-shirts, for example, you're going to say you're in retail, you're selling clothing. Now, further from that, you're going to specify your target audience. You're going to segment. And this is where it kind of gets a little more advanced from just general marketing. So if you're going to be designing baby clothes, for example, well, your audience obviously isn't going to be babies because they can't buy things, hopefully. You're going to probably be targeting to their parents, newly born, not newly born parents, but parents with newly born children. Other examples, if you're an office supply store, you're probably going to be targeting small businesses, offices. And the whole list goes on, and you can probably understand this pretty well. And then next is a projective market share. So this is probably going to take a little bit of research and maybe a tiny bit of math. You're going to kind of need to see who the big players are, your competition, how much of the market they're really taking up. And you're going to need to put down here what you think you can capture in this market. Marketing part 2, positioning. So positioning is what I like to explain it as is in what part of the mind are you going to kind of place yourself in the consumer. So you're going to start by asking some simple questions. So what's the purpose of your product? How do your competitors position themselves? How does your product service fulfill what does your product service fulfill that competitors don't? Now, I know I say competitors a few times here. It is important to focus on competitors, but make sure you do have your own product in mind and make sure it's an original idea and thought. However, it's a really good idea to fix upon if you're entering a market to fix upon what your competitors aren't really nailing and what customers are dissatisfied about. This is a really good strategy. And then, like I said, how you want your product or service to be looked at or perceived. Now, this kind of ties in with branding quite a bit, and you'll be able to establish a general sense of branding here. So next is organization and management. So if you're a smaller company, you're not really going to have to spend too much time on this part. But if you already have a company, if you're buying a company, whatever it may be, then yeah, you will have to spend a little bit more time. So here you'll go over the legal structure again. Why you chose that legal structure. So, it might be for separate entity, if you're forming a corporation, for tax purposes. Maybe it's an LLC because you want to be covered for liabilities. Maybe it's a partnership. So details of ownership. So like I said, if it is, a partnership, for example, here's where you're going to want to lay out, the terms that you guys have. So who's putting money in? What's the share between you two? What's the share when you take money out? And then qualifications of management, partners, employees, board members, etc. It just depends on how your business is formed, and that really relies on your specific circumstance. However, here you're really going to want to prove the point, especially to creditors when the time comes, why they should give you money, why they should trust you with money, their money in your hands. And you're going to really want to give them a good idea on why that is. You're going to want to talk up your management, and even for yourself. You're going to want to kind of outline the strengths and weaknesses of different positions on your team, and then hopefully you can manage these going forward if any problems arise. Next is the product or service line. So this is where you get in depth of what you really do or provide. So this is the most interesting part, I guess, if you're really passionate about your services or products, and you should be. However, this is gonna provide details of your product or service. So if I had a fancy new pen that wrote in invisible ink, this is where I would tell them what this does, and I would kind of lay out the details. If I was a pension consultant, this is where I would tell them that, we're going to manage other businesses, small business pension accounts, and provide consulting and whatever it may be. So the life cycle. Now, this is definitely more of a product specific part here. Um, you're going to want to lay out how long your product is expected to last, um, plans on getting customers to re-engage and buy the products after they break or they wear out or whatever it may be. But this can definitely apply to services as well. Sometimes consulting is a one-time thing, and maybe you want to kind of lay out a plan to attract these people back with, having great customer service or whatever it may be to pull these consultant clients back for more. Next is intellectual property. So these are trademarks, patents, just general things that if you're starting up, you may not really have. R&D planning. Now, if you guys are lucky and you have the funds and time available to do research and development, then this is where you're going to want to lay those plans out, the potential for your research and development, what this will mean for your company and the market, and basically all of that. So again, this is where you explain all of your research and development capabilities and what you plan to do for the future. I have a little link down there in the bottom. I'll place it in the section below. This is a really good resource. It's all written out, and basically it's just slides. A lot of it's even more in depth, so check that out if you need more help. So marketing strategy. This one's a tough one. There's not really a way for me to tell you guys how to market or how to write down what your marketing strategy is going to be, because there's so many different ways to do it. And like I said in the first video, if you watched that, marketing covers a vast array of subjects. So uh, basically some guidelines to follow is your market penetration strategy. So how you're going to insert yourself in a particular market that you're looking at. So if you're selling t-shirts, how are you going to get your sales? How are you going to enter this huge market? Maybe not the best example to use, but how are you going to enter this overcrowded t-shirt market? And maybe you'll say, I'll offer super niche branding for a very, very specific group of people that I know doesn't have, their needs served yet. And then growth strategy. So marketing plays a big deal in growth because marketing grows with your company. I mean, that's really how you grow, is getting the word out there more and more. And then channels of distribution. So where are you going to put your products? So again, if you're a clothing or apparel company, maybe your idea is to try and get in a store like PacSun if you're an urban streetwear type of designer, a younger generational apparel designer. Maybe you want your products in Walmart, Amazon, just a typical storefront, online, your website. This is where you're going to kind of explain all of that out and what your plan is for this. And then the communication strategy. So this is kind of what you think of as typical marketing. How are you going to communicate your brand to people? How are you going to give it to your audience, and how are you going to make them want it, I guess, is the best way to put it. So you're going to use Facebook ads. Are you going to use newspaper ads? Are you going to go door to door? What's your plan specifically on getting clients or customers? And then a complete overall sales strategy. So this is going to be, your sales activity. So pretty much each specific thing you plan to do. Like I said, running an ad campaign on Facebook, for example, getting getting a poster or something in a major retailer like PacSun of your clothing, which a lot of us would want if we were running a clothing store. That would be great news. And this is kind of your sales activity. This is what you're gonna tell what you plan on doing and having so customers will know your brand better. And then Salesforce. Are you gonna hire a Salesforce? Now, what I mean by Salesforce is specifically having salespeople push your products. So are you going to do this or not? And if you are, what are they going to do? How are they going to push your product? What are you going to pay them? How are you going to train them? And this is kind of a generality of the marketing strategy here, and hopefully that helped a little bit. So all about funding, the funding section. So this is definitely going to be the most math heavy and probably one of the more research heavy parts of a business plan, other than the marketing analysis. So you're going to need to put down your current needs. Now this is generally more geared towards people who are seeking funds from creditors, investors, loan officers. So if you're not really looking for creditors right now, you may not really have to put this down. But if you are, you're going to want to put down your current needs and you're going to need to support this. You're going to want to put your historical data on there to show that, hey, I'm generating sales. So if you go to a loan officer and you have, 2 years of sales already down, and they know that you've tracked this yourself, and that kind of proves itself to a creditor. And so historical data is really important. And then you're going to want estimated needs over the next 5 years, especially if you continue to take out more money, if you're going to need more money over the next 5 years. So what you're going to need for all of this is projections. So you're going to need a projected income statement, cash flow. And this is definitely math heavy. Um, Generally speaking, if you want to get money from a creditor, you're going to need at least 5 years of projected statements. The first year, typically, you're going to either go quarter by quarter or even month by month, and then kind of slowly transition into year by year. There's a few tools to help you project your statements, and we'll also cover those in future videos. Next is how you intend to use the funds once you get them. Obviously, people want to know how you're going to use their money. They want to feel safe and they want to feel confident that you're going to put the money where it's going to best give them a return on investment, or your company the best return on investment, so you can pay the creditors back. And then last, you're going to say some situational plans for future occurrences. So this is kind of a risk management section. What you do if you got debt situations. Are you going to get bought out possibly? There's a lot of different situations that you guys can find yourselves in, and if you are in those situations, and they relate to funding, or if they relate to your creditors' needs, then this is definitely a good place to summarize that. So financials, and this ties in with the funding a lot. Like I said, historical data should be input. So you're going to want to put historical data in this business plan, because these tie in with your projections as well. So as you can see here, projections extremely important and valuable, especially to creditors. You're going to want income statement, balance sheet, cash flows. And I said a lot of these things last slide. Creditors typically like to see 5 years of projections, and if you're not looking for funding, look to, I'd say, about 2 years of projections to start. So if you're not looking for creditors, it's still a really good idea. Trust me. This is a game plan. Once you have these numbers down, you kind of feel more confident in chasing your goals once you see it on paper. Take it from me. I've done this multiple times, and it's really helpful to see on paper what the numbers are and what you can do if you reach your goals. All right, so that's about it for business plans. Thank you for watching. Like I will always say, we're here to help, so comment or email your questions. I have my email down there, and we will put it below. Stay tuned for the next topics. We'll probably dive in deeper to a couple subjects on the business plan first because I'm sure there's still a lot of questions and specifics that need to be covered, and we'll make sure we're covering all of them. So, again, thank you for watching.